Welcome to Mindful Salutation with Toms. In this video I will show you tricks and tips how to do sun salutations for basically anyone, everyone, not everyone, but most of the people, and how to do it mindfully if you want to continue practicing both with the form and just for practicing your awareness. So let's start with the basics, how to do it, how to enter, how to exit, and where to pay attention in each of the stages of sun salutations. They're quite simple but really demanding, so don't worry if you're not able to do them same as I do. Always try to listen to your body, check in, and go for modifications whenever necessary. Feel your body each and every time you practice. So let's start. Find our way onto the mat. So mindfully we stand on top of the mat into the mountain pose. So the mountain pose, usually we have our feet close together, straight spine. Usually that means bringing the pelvis slightly forward, contracting abdominal muscles. So we keep our body straight, upright, spine straight, shoulders rolling up and back, chest forward, opening up the chest, chin slightly tucked in so we can point top of the head upwards, staying still, looking forward into the still spot. So this will be mountain pose. You can keep your arms over to your sides or open up to the front, up to you, as long as your spine is straight, gaze looking forward into the still spot. What we want to do is avoid looking around what's happening with other students into the class or what's happening around you in your apartment if you're doing it on your own online. So try to keep straight and conscious. And from here, the next stage is moving your hands up with inhalation, reaching up to the sky. We're gonna do it slow and keep to each of the poses for a while. So don't worry if you need to exit the pose, because usual sun salutation is a bit faster and a bit more fluid than now. As you bring your hands up with inhalation, you can lift your gaze up, looking onto your thumbs or index fingers, still staying upright, or you can keep looking with your gaze forward as you wish, as long as your eyes don't wander around. And from here, with next exhalation, whenever your exhalation comes, you go forward bend all the way down. When you come into the forward bend, you want to relax your body. You can even bend your knees if your hamstrings are too tight, so you can relax your chest closer to your knees. If you want to have a deeper stretch on your hamstrings, you can keep your legs straight. It's up to you how you want to practice. So if you want to have a deeper stretch or more active practice, keep your legs straight and pull yourself closer to your legs. You can even grab them from the side if it's an active pose. If it's more of a yin kind of practice, bend your legs and let the gravity do the work for you. Whatever you do, for the first sun salutation of the day, I recommend to do it slowly, gently, and letting the gravity do the work for you. You can stay here for a couple of breaths, and whenever ready, with inhalation, go halfway up, spine parallel to the ground. You can slide your hands up to your shins or keep them firmly onto the ground. In this case, your spine might not be parallel to the ground. Most importantly, your spine is straight. So choose your option. Make sure your spine is straight. If you're gonna go for the straight position, make sure it's parallel to the ground and keep your arms for support. We don't need to stay here, but it's nice back strengthening exercise, so we might stay here for a couple of breaths. And then from this position, next one is plank. So we put our hands down to the ground. You can bend your knees to ease into the posture. You can step one leg at a time. You can bring your knees to the ground, or you can step both legs back. So once you're into the plank, you can always transition through the tabletop position. So you don't have to, plank would be knees off the ground, straight. That would be the perfect position. However, if you're not there yet, you can go to the tabletop. And the next one could be lower plank or lowering yourself onto the ground. So lower plank would be keeping hovering above the ground or just being onto the ground. Make sure that your elbows are tight to the ground and your arms are quite close to your shoulders. And from here, usually we go for upward facing dog. You can choose modifications. If you don't like upward facing dog or you're not able to do it, you can do cobra, keeping your arms bent, lifting slightly up, keeping your toes pointing backwards onto the ground. And you can stay here in cobra, mini cobra. You can go straight into the upward facing dog, opening up your chest and keeping your knees onto the ground or lifting up as you wish. You can also do the Sphinx as a modification. And from here we would go for the downward facing dog, which is quite tricky. So sometimes I like people to go first to the child's pose, so you know the distance between your hands and legs. So if you're in child's pose and your arms are in front of you and your face is onto the ground, then you have a nearly perfect placement of your hands and feet for your body, because for each person they have a slightly different placement. So in order for not to go into the forward bend or go into the plank, this is how you can measure where should be your hands and feet placed. And from here you lift up, you tuck your toes under and bring your butt back and up. And you can stay here or step, half step forward. For me, the most comfortable downward facing dog is from this position, stepping half step forward, half foot, not half step, half foot forward. And now we're in downward facing dog. Sometimes teachers like to stay here for a while, like me. And if this is too long for you, feel free to go for a child's pose, the position we just came out of from. So now I explain the downward facing dog. So as you stay in a downward facing dog, you try to keep your arms straight. You try to keep your palms really pressing into the ground. And then you choose either your index fingers or your middle fingers are parallel to each other. So either like this or either like this. So they're not outward or inward placed. You're trying to really stretch your shoulders here. Your back goes back towards your knees. So you're kind of pushing your chest towards your knees. And in order to enter this pose, I always recommend, especially for the first downward facing dog in the day, to lift your heels off the ground and bend your knees. So it enables you to go as deep as you possibly can for your shoulders and your chest towards your knees. And then, without compromising your back, and as your hip goes back and up, and if you're in a perfect pose, now you can start to put your heels onto the ground and straighten your legs without compromising the back. And from here, usually, sometimes when you're staying there in a downward facing dog too long, I recommend to exit to the child's pose if the teacher likes to stay there longer than your comfort zone is and you're longer than you feel comfortable. And usually from here, for transition, we enter the last downward facing dog for the one more breath, and then continuing from downward facing dog, we step forward. Your legs move step by step. You can also jump or float towards your hands. And when the inhalation finishes, you should be halfway up with the spine parallel to the ground. You can take a couple of breaths to get here, but make sure that with inhalation you're standing halfway up, spine parallel to the ground. You can go with your hands up to the shins, or if you're from different schools of yoga, sometimes people like to keep their hands flat on the ground with the spine still straight but not parallel to the ground, still pushing upwards. Choose your variation, keep your legs bent or straight. The most important thing is not that much how you do it, but that you do it consciously and make a conscious choice. And then with the next exhalation you do the forward bend, and again you make a choice, conscious, mindful choice. How do you want to feel in this practice? Do you want to keep your legs straight or bent? Do you want to bring the yin style submissive relaxation with knees bent, chest onto your knees, letting the gravity do the work, relaxing your neck, relaxing your shoulders, letting the gravity do the work for you. Or you want to be straight and pull yourself towards your legs and deepen your stretch actively. And you go deeper with each exhalation or enter the pose with exhalation. The next inhalation, you roll your spine up and stand up, bringing your arms up. You can take a couple of breaths to enter this pose. As you reach up to the sky, bring your hands up to over your head, and it's the same as we did it before in the beginning of the sun salutation. And with exhalation, we bring our hands down in front of your chest. They move in the prayer position, and we end up where we started in a mountain pose. So that's one sun salutation with some interruptions in between and also with some modifications. So let's do one more sun salutation, a bit faster pace. So you can slowly but surely get into the flow of sun salutation. So with inhalation, reach your hands up, lift them up over your head, and with exhalation we forward bend all the way down. Try to choose your intention and your way of practicing here. With next inhalation, you go halfway up, spine parallel to the ground, reaching chin forward, looking forward, or a couple of meters in front of you. And when the next exhalation comes, you bring your hands down. You can walk, step, jump into the plank. If you're staying in a plank and you want to intensify the practice, lean forward. You have more weight on your wrists, and the wrists also get a bit of a flexibility increase. You can stay in a plank as long as you like, or with the next exhalation, which could be immediately after going for a down from the halfway up, you go for a lower plank or lower yourself all the way down to the ground. If you like to do the strength training, you can hover here in lower plank for a couple of breaths, or go straight with next inhalation into the upward facing dog, cobra, sphinx, or any other modification with your knees down on the ground or lifting up. And the next downward facing dog with exhalation. Usually we stay 4 to 5 breaths in Vinyasa yoga class in a downward facing dog. So count your breath. 5. Bend your knees, bring your chest closer to your knees. 4. Straight arms, stretch your shoulders. 3. Smile, relax your neck, look between your legs. 3. 2. Butt back and up, chest closer to your knees. 1. And with next inhalation, jump or step forward. Your legs towards your hands, halfway up, spine parallel to the ground. And with next exhalation, forward bend all the way down. Relax. With inhalation, stand up, arms going up over your head. Lift your gaze up or keep it forward if you feel a bit dizzy. And with next exhalation, mountain pose. Now let's do one more, a bit faster pace, without taking breaks in between. So you see how it looks like when it's more fluid. Inhale up. Exhale down. Notice the pattern. Inhale up, halfway up. Exhale down. Lower plank. Inhale up. Exhale down. 5. 4. 3. Pay attention to your breath. 2. Feel free to practice Ujjayi breathing. 1. Inhale halfway up, stepping forward. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Each movement starts with the breath. Each movement ends with the breath. And that's the sun salutation. I invite you to do one more on your own, so you know, without guidance, if you have practiced it solidly enough, or there's something you're missing out. So this is not necessary, but I will do one more and try to follow along. Try to remember what you did, how it should be done, and this one is big without guidance. You do it on your own speed. We usually meet up in a downward facing dog and then move forward for 5 breaths and then move more forward, and once more we meet up in a mountain pose. So whenever ready, try to do one more time on your own. Don't worry if you skip some things. That's part of the learning practice. Keep smiling, laugh at yourself. And count your breath once you're into the downward facing dog. Doesn't matter if you're staying the same breath count as a teacher does or other students does. Try to be aware all the bodily posture tricks and tips that need to be paid attention. That brings you back to the present moment, back to your body, as you observe if your posture is good or not, if you're fulfilling all the necessary guides for the posture. Feel free to step forward if you're not there yet. And whenever ready, we finish and wait for you in a mountain pose. Remind yourself that key aspects of the mountain pose is the pelvis forward. Do the check-in. Is your abdominals contracted? Are your shoulders back and down, chest open? Is your chin slightly tucked in? Are you looking into the still spot in front of you? And are you breathing Ujjayi breath, or you're just observing your breath? So that's mindful sun salutations. Just be mindful, observe your body, observe your mind, and observe your heart. Practice without trying to do damage. Practice taking it easy, sustainably. What I usually do for my first couple of sun salutations, I also do the walking dog in a downward facing dog. I try to do it slow. I don't do floating, jumping, because I want to make my practice sustainable, so I go easy on myself. And by the time I feel I'm ready, I'm warmed up, I go for a bit more advanced practices and advanced modifications like 3-leg dogs and floating, jumping, holding myself in a low plank. But for the first one, it's okay to use the knees and go easy on yourself. As always, smile and be present. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section, contact me. As always, appreciate your support by liking, sharing and subscribing to the channel. Have an amazing day, a magical day in front of you.